Hi, it's Helen Tarrant. Hi and welcome to another episode of Commercial Property Roadshow. You're here with Helen Tarrant. Now, I'm just walking around here at a food court which up in Chinatown on Dixon Street, and it is actually before their service starts, so it's only about it's actually about 10:30 in the morning, so they're just getting ready, and they're not going to be actually busy about 12:30 to probably 2:30, and then probably busy all day after that. But the main thing I wanted to talk to you today about is whether how do you pick your tenant. So in commercial property, we talked about how it's really important to find the right type of tenant, but how do you pick the tenant that is not a fad, but a tenant that is actually going to have longevity? Now, a lot of people look at professional tenant, a lot of people look at medical tenant and go, well, they're going to be there forever, so I want that type of tenant. But is there other alternatives? Because you can't always, if you're always chasing a medical professional tenant, you're going to end up paying it with very low yields, and you're going to be paying a high price for them. So let's find out now, what other tenants are there that you can be potentially buying a property with that type of tenant in there that still have longevity, that is not a fad. So what recently we've seen in the market at the moment is we've seen a lot of barbershops pop up, we've seen different nail salons pop up, we've seen different alternative hairdressers pop up, we've also seen innovative foods pop up as well. So there are lots and lots of different varieties of type of tenants that's coming up onto the market. So which one do you choose? Do you take a chance on some of the new tenants that's there and think that their business is going to survive, or do you stick with an old tenant but get a much lower yield for them? So that is a question. That is always the question to answer, you see, because when you're looking at building a portfolio and longevity, you should have all sorts of tenants, because you never know how the market is impacted over time. And as markets go up and down, different tenants do better than other tenants. So for example, during COVID, one of the things that did really, really well is tenants that happen to be in the hobby and in recreational side of things, and that meant that that's the type of tenant that may be a bike store, a tenant that did fishing, which traditionally wouldn't have done so well. But also you've got tenants there that have done even yoga and Pilates and all of the different martial arts after we're obviously allowed to have personal contact and reopening after COVID restrictions got lifted. But you know, nail salons had to have a break during that time. Even dentists and doctors have to have a break during that time and move on to online and Zoom meetings. So, and also, you know, lawyers started operating from home, and so did some accountants and financial planners. So how did you, if you had a different type of tenant, would you have that tenant survive better during COVID? So moving forward, what is the right type of tenant? So I like to always look at trends and demographics in the market, and trends and demographics in the market is really, really important. So how does that work? It means that when you are looking at an area, and it doesn't have to be in Sydney Metro, I'm obviously in Sydney Metro at the moment, but if you're buying, let's say, in a regional area, and you're looking at that area, you need to look at what is already available in terms of services in that area. Now, does the tenant that you happen to be in the property you're looking at complement, and is there a need in that industry, in that suburb or area for that type of tenant? So, for example, air conditioning type tenants, mechanics, specific professional tenants or trade tenants, like if they do special type of plumbing, they do special type of car service. Is there a demand at the moment for that type of service that's not filled by anybody else, or is there an oversupply? So if there is an oversupply, you've got to look at, is your tenant an incomer, a newcomer into the industry? And if they're a new incomer into the industry, how are they set to be able to take on competition in the industry? Or have they already have other stores, and this is just an additional add-on to their other stores? And if they are just additional add-ons to other stores, that's all fine, but it is about whether they're new or not. And of course, it's also about the strength of the lease. So if they're a new incoming tenant, you want to make sure they've got a guarantee or a deposit, plus they've got the personal guarantee. If it's an established tenant or a tenant that has a brand name, then you won't need that. You'll just need a most likely a bank guarantee or a deposit, and that would be fine for that type of tenant, because they've got established history, they've got a brand name, and they've got other stores as well. So it actually depends on the lease and how much Also how much incentives are given, so you know how much your tenant can afford to invest in that property as well. Now there's also lots of different type and innovative type of tenants that's coming into the industry and are new startups. So there's lots of barber type tenants who are doing complete male makeovers, complete shaves, and as well as haircuts, and bringing a male experience to it. There are new bars and pubs popping up which has a slant to a particular type of music with a particular type of alcohol or wine or beers, and they're also popping up as well. Now again, when you're assessing that, look at the demographics, the need, and how that area is changing, because that's going to define whether there is a need for that type of tenant, whether they're going to survive for the next 3 or 5 years and continue to be able to pay you rent. The other thing to look at is the rent in proportion to what's possibly in their business. So if it's a barber and they're charging $30 a cut, or $70 a shave, or I'm not sure, I've never been to a barber, but let's just say that they are, and their rent is relatively low, and they spent some money on the fit out, there's a good chance that they're going to be able to survive and have build up a business for themselves, especially if they also have an online presence and they're building up their online presence and following, and they take appointments and they're actually showing that they've got other staff as well. That's also a good sign. But if you have a business that may be paying, let's say $70,000, $80,000 in rent in a prime location, but they're only charging minimum for entry. So let's say, for example, we're looking at a property that has let's say a place where they have kids, a play area for kids, or it's a play center for children, and they're in a metro area rather than an industrial area where the space and the price per square meter is so high, then you got to wonder that if they're paying $70,000, $80,000 or $90,000 a year, and they're only charging $15 an entry per child, whether they're actually going to survive in the long term or not. And so that's some of the things to take in consideration. But definitely look at the demographic changes, definitely look at how the area is changing, whether there's a demand, look at the competition in that area, look how that fad would work in that, or whether it actually has established history and there's a chance for them to survive. So there's a lot of due diligence to do, but of course it's all about sinking your teeth into it and really understanding the property you're buying. And remember, it is, when you're buying a property, it's for the long term, not just for now. And if you need a hand, contact me at helentarrant.com or email me at helen@commercialpropertycashflow. Look forward to seeing you in the next episode. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Bye for now.